Hey everybody, Jacob Scott, Lowrance product expert. Springtime has jumped upon us. It's a great time to get outdoors, and what better way to experience the water than on a kayak? If there's anything that 2020 has taught us, that it's great to get outdoors. So a little bit about kayak fishing. It started in its infancy. We would take kayaks and modify them how we wanted to fish out of them. Then it took off. Kayak companies started manufacturing kayaks specifically for fishing. And then we started adding stuff to them. Fish finders, trolling motors, foot propulsion, all kinds of stuff. And I mean, how big has the kayak industry gotten for fishing? Yeah, every year in Louisiana, there's a kayak tournament called Ride the Bull, which is probably one of the largest kayak tournaments that I've seen to date. Usually over 700 participants there, all trying to catch bull reds out of kayaks. A lot of the major tournament trails now have some sort of kayak event associated with them. So not only do you have anglers like Ike and Ellie and Jordan Lee that are sponsored by kayak companies, but these big tournament trails that those guys fish have now looked at the industry and said, hey, we want to get part of this in here also. So it's amazing the explosion that's taken in the kayak market. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit. We're installing this hook reveal 7 triple shot on this beautiful Hobie Outback kayak. So we've got a video that's going to show you everything we did to get this installed. This is like really an amazing, easy install to do on these boats. We've got a couple things from other boat manufacturers to show you that they use for helping install products on the boats that makes it easy to get out there and fish. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and take a look at the video of installing this Hook Reveal 7 triple shot on this Hobie kayak. All right, everybody, we're out here at one of our local kayak shops, Tulsa Kayaks. Great friends in the industry out here giving us a hand to do this install video for y'all. So we got us a Hobie PA14. We're going to be installing a Lowrance Hook Reveal 7-inch triple shot on this boat, and we're also going to be powering it using the Aqua Power Sport kit. So what's really great about this is it gives us the ability to be on the water, be mobile. I mean, it is springtime. How many of us want to hang around the house any more than we actually have to right now? So kayaks, small boats, they're a great way to get on the water for not a lot of price. So let's go ahead and take a look at everything we're going to do and install on this Hobie PA14. One of the great things with Hobie being an industry partner of Lowrance is these kayaks come Lowrance ready. What does that mean to somebody that purchases a Hobie kayak? That means ease of install. So they have a Lowrance ready transducer system on these boats that allow you to easily install any of our transducers on these boats to get on the water. So on this boat, we're going to put a Hook 7 Reveal triple shot, and obviously we're going to use that triple shot transducer. And then to power this system, we're actually going to go to another one of our industry partners, Aqua. The Aqua, this one's a 10 amp hour battery kit. So we're going to use this. It's a lithium ion battery, should give you all day power on the water. So one cool thing about Aqua is we actually have Lowrance ready Aqua battery kits that you can order from us. And it comes with your Hook Reveal power cables already on these batteries. So let's go ahead and jump off here and let's start installing this stuff on this boat. First thing we want to do, unfortunately, is strip all the accessories out of this boat because we're going to flip it over a couple times so we can get to the parts that we need to. So if we want to take out the Mirage drive, we just flip those forward, lift those out, and we're going to set them off to the side. Then we're going to take the seat out. Flip these back. Seat's going to lift up and pop right out. We're going to set that off to the side. You can see we've got the paddle sitting in this one. So again, we're just going to pop these out, set them off to the side. So we're down basically to a stripped boat. We will open the hatch here I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to take these out. Again, set those to the side. We're going to get in through this hatch right here to get to some of the areas of the boat so that we can feed these cables through. And in the front hatch, we're going to go ahead and open the front hatch up. And they have a nice little tray in here for storing stuff. So we're going to pull this out, and that gives us full access into the hull of this boat so that we can reach in there and push cables around and put things where we need them. Like I said, the Hobies are relatively easy. Actually, a lot of the kayaks are relatively easy, no matter how you want to do the installs. So now that we've got everything opened, we're probably going to flip this boat over and start hooking up transducers. All right, now that we've removed all the accessories, the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and flip this Hobie Kayak over so that we can get to the Guardian plate underneath so we can mount our transducer. Let's go ahead and flip it over. There we go. Okay, now that we've got it flipped over, you look right back here, you can see the Guardian plate, which this is a retractable transducer plate that Hobie has built into these boats. And what it does is it gives you the ability to raise your transducer up and down so that it's not dragging the bottom if you ever have to pull your kayak across gravel. All right, first thing I'm going to do is take this Hobie Guardian transducer shield out. Do that by loosening these 3 screws. All right, now that I have the plate out, we're going to get everything rigged on this. Nice thing about the Hobies and the Guardian system is you have this little rope you can see tied up here. We're going to untie this and it'll wind up getting connected to our transducer plate here so we can pull the transducer up and down out of the water. All right, now that we have our Guardian plate removed, we're going to do the things we need to do to allow us to install the triple shot transducer. So the triple shot transducer is going to be on the outside of this plate. So we're going to have to remove these 2 screws and remove this little plate right here. We're going to replace it with this plate. As you can see, this will be on the bottom of the boat like this now, and it'll allow our cables and stuff to go up inside. And then we have these 2 little ears that are going to go on our triple shot transducer and allow it to connect this plate together. Now, one thing I want to remind all you anglers, these parts come with the Hobie. These are not extra accessories you have to go out and find. So when you buy the Hobie with the Guardian system, you're going to get all of these parts to allow you to install these transducers. All right, I'm going to remove these 2 screws so we can change out our plates. 1, 2, you see the plate falls away. Now I'm going to put our other plate in here. Little tab goes underneath, and just knock that screw out of the way real quick. Little tab goes underneath the back. This falls into place here. I'm going to go ahead and hold this with my hand and put these back in place. Now, if you are using a power drill for something like this, make sure you have your torque setting very low because we are screwing into plastic pieces, and if you try to torque it down too hard, you're going to strip everything out. Go slow. Yeah, as you can see, I've got my torque setting really low on 3. And now this Guardian plate is ready for our triple shot transducer. So with the Hobie, there's this little bag of parts it contains. It has different size grommet fittings. And also, if you look in here, you can see it has some screws and bolts in here. These are the screws and the bolts that we're going to need to attach our triple shot transducer to the Guardian plate. All right, even first-time anglers and installers do not have to be scared. This is the Hobie instruction manual that comes with this PA14. And if you look in here, starting on, oh, look at this, page 21, step-by-step instructions. They're going to walk you through how to do this install. So don't be afraid, it's real easy, and the step-by-step instructions come with this boat. With our Guardian plate out and our pieces and parts swapped, the next thing we're going to do is undo our transducer because we're going to have to pull this cable through the boat. So again, like I've talked about previously, we want to stretch these out so we're not trying to pull a knot like that through the boat. So I'm going to go ahead and just work through getting this untangled. All right. So now I'll take my cable and I'll just kind of hold it with one hand, pull everything through, because the way these cables have been folded up and how they sit in the box when they come out of the factory, a little bit of stuff like this makes pulling it through everything easier. So let's look at our Guardian plate. Again, we changed this out. We're going to feed the transducer cable up and through here, and we're going to start pulling the cable through. Now that we've got that pulled through, you can see it's going to fit in this notch right here like this. So this transducer is going to lay alongside the bottom of the Guardian plate like this. Now that we've got our triple shot pulled through the Guardian plate, we're going to take these two little adapters that came with it. These are going to slide in the track right here. They're going to slide down like this. So they're going to come down evenly. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the two rubber spacers in here and put the bolt through this and get this all tightened up. Rubber spacer goes in on this side. We're going to pull our transducer up. Rubber spacer comes to the other side. Push that through. We're going to add this washer. And then this all gets connected using a nylon locking nut. All right, now that I've got my transducer attached and tightened up there, we're going to go ahead and finish putting these plates together. So you may have noticed there's a little channel on the outside. There's a bolt that comes with these two little metal brackets. These go on these channels, and then the bolt goes through that. So we go through there. Add that to this side. And then we'll get our nut secured down on this side. All right. Now we've got everything locked into place on here. See, we've got these locked down. Got our adapter locked down up here. And as you can see, it now holds our triple shot transducer right in the bottom of this Guardian plate. The next thing we have to do to make this function is go ahead and there's 6 screws. We need to pull these screws out. Now with these 6 screws removed, this allows our Guardian plate to do its job. You can see now this plate's going to flex. We're going to flex it all the way because it comes apart like that. But once we attach the rope underneath, when we go to take this kayak out of the water, or if we're going to pull up on a rocky bank, we can actually pull our transducer up so that it's not in harm's way and getting dragged on concrete, mud, river rock, anything like that. To untie the rope for the Guardian system, very simply, you've got a tag end that's sticking up. If you grab that tag end and pull it, and then it comes free underneath here. So now this tag end that we have is going to get tied to this section of the rope, and that's going to give us the ability to pull this transducer out of the water. I'm going to come in here. So I got a couple nuts tied in it. I'm going to go ahead and pull it tight with my needle nose. So once I turn this over, I'll slide this all the way to the center. But the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and pull the transducer cable through to the other side of the hull. All right, now that we have everything ready, right down here in this little area, you can see the opening. This is where I'm going to pull my transducer cable through that'll bring it to the top side of the boat. Now I got a little bit of that through there. I'm going to go ahead and reach under the boat. I'm going to go ahead and get a hold of that transducer cable. Makes it a little bit easier for me to pull everything through. All right, so now that I have most of that transducer cable through, I'm going to start flipping this over. I want to pull that pretty much to the center there. We're going to put our guardian plate back in position and get it screwed down. All right, so I torqued those a little bit harder because it does have threaded inserts. But again, if you're using power tools, you want to keep that torque low. So with our triple shot transducer mounted here, now you can see how this guardian system works. I pull the lever and it'll pull it up inside the cavity of the boat. That way it doesn't get drug on rocks or across concrete boat ramps or anything else like that. So the next thing we're going to do is get this boat flipped back over and start running our cables through the hull. Now with all of that done, we're going to go ahead and flip this boat back over so we can get our transducer cables run through the hull, get everything hooked up, and get it out on the water. All right, so now you've seen how to get that transducer installed on that guardian plate. We're going to talk a little bit before we continue about batteries. One of the questions everybody has is, what kind of battery do I want to use? You know, there's all kinds of options on the market. We've got the Naqua, and this is a 10 amp hour battery. This one's a Lowrance branded one. It comes with a power cable that's already connected to their adapter. So this will plug directly into your hook 2 and hook reveal unit. So that's one great option. You know, everybody asks about the older sealed lead acid batteries. These are good batteries too. You know, there's pros and cons with everything. The pro on this one is they're available virtually everywhere. Walmart has these type of batteries. Almost all of your sporting goods stores has these type of batteries. You'll usually find them like with the deer feeders and stuff like that. Fairly low cost. Usually a 9 amp hour battery like this is usually around $25. They are heavy though. That's the biggest con that you have for a lead acid battery is the weight of these batteries. So a comparable lithium battery of the same size weighs, I think this thing weighs maybe 2 pounds, whereas we're looking at that same battery in a lead acid being about 5 to 6 pounds. With everything that people are adding to their kayaks, you know, the hook reveal, it doesn't have a large draw, so these 10 amp hour batteries are really good. Anglers that are adding something like the TIs or the Elite FSs or the HDSs and they want to run our new product like our ActiveTarget, they need to switch to something a little bit bigger, like a 23 amp hour battery. These will give you more power to stay on the water longer. Dakota Lithium also has, they make They call this a power box. And these are really cool for using on the kayak because you have the ability to connect the unit directly here. You can turn that on and it has power. Flip this on here. Under here you have USB ports and a cigarette plug for being able to charge that. If you get out there early and you're trying to rig stuff up in the dark, this also has lights on it. So there's just all kinds of options in the market. So the choice is only limited by what you want to spend on a battery. The cost is probably the biggest con for most people on the lithium batteries, but with that cost comes added features too. One being really lightweight, one having a long lifetime. Some of these companies, I know like Dakota, they have an 11-year warranty on their batteries. So, you know, while it's a higher cost to start off with, you're not having to replace that battery every year. So another question that we get asked a lot is, how long is the battery going to last me on the water? That's a tricky question. It's always based on amp draw, how many things you got plugged in. The life of the battery is based on, you know, did you get out there with a full charge or things like that. I have a little chart that you can see here. I've made this. It's available on our Lowrance knowledge base. So this chart basically gives you the ability to look at the amp size of a battery and how long it may last based on the unit you have. So again, you can find that on the Lowrance knowledge base on lowrance.com. So Matthew, do we have any questions out there?
Yep, there are a couple. We'll start with right off the top. Are there any special settings in my Lowrance units for using them on a kayak, like slow speeds and shallow water?
Excellent question. So if you didn't hear the question, it was, are there any special settings that I need to use on a kayak with my Lowrance unit? Because we're moving at slower speeds and oftentimes we're in shallower waters. So using the hook reveal, if I hit my pages button here and I go up to settings, if we look at chart, so with the hook reveal, just make sure that you've got your transducer installed on it. A lot of times it's actively going to pick up what you have installed there. So if we're in a 2D sonar screen, I'm going to press this little menu and return key. I'm going to press it one time and it pops up here. As you can see, it's already in auto mode. If I hit auto again, I can go to custom. And once I go into custom, I can do things in here like changing my frequency, changing sensitivity. If we go into advanced, it gives you the ability to look at your scroll speed, your color line, surface clarity. More options. This gives you the ability to change to different palettes and turn on downscan overlay. So those are features that you can use. But the most important thing I would say is, let me back up. Actually, for the HDSs and the FSs, you want to set it in a shallow water mode. And I am. I keep wanting to touch the screen because let me get to my sonar, select sonar, go to my menu, so we're in custom. Sensitivity, that's one of the ones we talk about a lot. Leave that in auto most of the time, because as you can see, if we turn it up, we start turning the sensitivity up, it's going to fill up the screen where it's just getting every single return you see. And then if you back it off too much, you can clear the screen and not see any returns. So again, right here, leave it in auto. We say it all the time. If you look at our anglers that fish the pro circuits, If you go in and you look at their settings, 99% of the time, they're gonna have all of their equipment in these auto modes. It's one of the modes that we've looked at, we've set it up. It has the most usability out of everything when we look at it. Occasionally you may need to turn your sensitivity up or down a little bit depending on the type of water that you're fishing. So, as you can see, most of it, like I said, we just kind of leave it there. When we go to our side scan, again, we push this twice, you can see we are in auto there. If I push it again, it gives me the custom modes. From here, I could go in and I can change from 455 to 800. The advanced settings, that's where you usually will set your surface clarity. So if I was seeing a lot of clutter in the top of the water column, I might change that from low to medium or high. And then in your more options, this gives you the ability to select your viewing on your left and right, changing color palettes. And another one that's really important is this flip left-right. A lot of anglers, when they get out there on the water, they've installed their transducer, they may see something on side scan and go, that's typically on the other side of the boat, why am I seeing it here? All you have to do is if you go in here, select flip left right, you hit that, it's going to change that image on the screen for you so that whatever's on the left side of the boat is on the left side of the boat on the screen and vice versa on the right side. So those are some of the basic settings to look at on your units when you're on the water. Now again, we're talking about the hook reveal right now. You're going to have different settings and options available in the Elite FS and on the HDS Live units. Matthew, do we have any more questions?
Several. So this one is kind of a two-parter. Number one is, if I don't have a Hobie, how do I mount my transducer? And how far below the water does it need to be?
Okay, excellent question. So the question was, if I don't have a Hobie, how do I mount my transducer? And then the second part of that question is, how far below the water does it need to be? I'm going to tackle the second part of that first, which is how far below the water does it need to be? In kayaks, it doesn't have to be super deep in the water. Essentially, there's different companies that make different options for it. Ram makes a transducer swing arm that you can clamp on the side of the boat, and it's got an arm that you'll put over the side of your kayak. Where you really want that transducer is just a little bit below the bottom of your boat, especially if you're using a scanning transducer, so that it's below, it's not going to bounce off the hull of this boat. So you want it just a little bit below. So depending on the size and depth of your kayak, it may only need to be in the water 10 to 12, maybe 18 inches max. So options for other companies are out there. Many companies make these sonar pods to go in their kayaks. This one's on a bona fide. You can see there's usually an opening that it'll sit down in, kind of like what you see where the pedals go on this Hobie. It's an opening that this will sit down in. The bottom has a nice spot right here for the transducer to get mounted. Then usually you bring your transducer cables inside this box somewhere. A lot of people will mount their units to the top of this. So it's one self-contained unit that they can take in and out of the boat. Now this one, like we talked about, is for a bona fide. This sonar pod that we're looking at here, this one is for a big fish. As you can see, they have a nice bottom section for mounting the transducer. They actually have a little plug right here that you'll pull out that you can bring your cables through. And then again, a lot of people will mount their units either on the top of this, on a ram mount, or some sort of device like that. For people that have a kayak that does not have a transducer pod, there's several different options for that. Yak Attack, there's a lot of third-party people that make accessories that you can bolt to your kayak and give you the ability to put those transducers in the water and give you the ability to have a spot to mount your unit. So what else do we have, Matthew?
How durable are the transducers? Are small scratches in the plastic going to affect the performance?
Excellent question. It was how durable are these transducers? So if I start getting scratches on the face of my transducer, is it going to affect it? No. The transducers are pretty durable. It takes quite a bit to break them. Doesn't mean you can't, but people have in the past. But they're really durable. Surface scratches usually do not cause any issues. If you get a really deep gouge that goes all the way through the resin and into the housing of the transducer, that's when you would have a problem with your transducer and need to replace it. What else you have, Matthew?
How do I mount an ActiveTarget on a kayak?
That's another excellent question. Our new product, ActiveTarget. Everybody wants to know, how do I mount this on the kayak? It's going to be just the same as we've shown with other stuff already. You're going to have a location to mount the module. You're going to have an Elite FS, an HDS, or a carbon unit for that to connect to via Ethernet. And then there's a lot of third-party companies that make accessory poles that you can either attach to the side of a Hobie or whatever brand of kayak you're in that will give you the ability to put the pole in the water, and then you can turn that ActiveTarget transducer to where you're fishing. So those were some really great questions. I think what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to go ahead and look at the second part of this video and see how we start mounting these units on the top side of this Hobie. All right, with our boat flipped back over, transducer cables pulled through the hole. We have a little gabbard plug here that we're going to pull out. We've got another one over here that we're going to open up for our electrical and transducer connections. The next thing I do though is I'm going to come in here to this hatch, open this hatch up. I can pop this off, give that a little push, and I can take this out. This is the tackle tray storage that's in these Hobies. So I pull this out of the way so that it gives me a little bit more room underneath the hull of this boat so I can pull these transducer cables. All right, every Hobie comes with this little baggie of accessories, these little grommets for transducer cables and whatnot to go through. Again, if you look down here, each one of these little ports has 3 sections that come out. So you have things like, this one's a double where you could pull like a transducer and a power cable through the same slot. You have, that one's another double. This one's a single, but it's a big hole. So you can also fit these to the cable. So if I put this around the cable, as you can see, there's a huge opening on that, and that's not really a good fit. So I'm going to continue looking through the baggie until I think I found it right there. That didn't take long. So as you can see, this one has a smaller opening on it than this one. So if I take this one, just grab my cable and fit it around it. So now you see, as that goes around the cable, my cable's still going to slide with a little bit of tension on it, but it's a really nice fit. So this is what I'm going to use in this grommet hole when we pull these out. All right, 3 little screws, and this comes out. 1, 2, 3. So now this just pops right off. Now there is a little gasket, so make sure you have that gasket in place when you put everything back together. I'm not gonna lie, doing installs on kayaks is really fun. It's a lot less work than when you get to your big motor boats. Even your smaller boats, your 10 boats, those are really fun to do installs on also. You just don't have a lot of tubes and stuff that you gotta fight and find your way through. So I really find it's fun when you get to these smaller crafts like this to do these installs on. All right, we're gonna start pulling this transducer cable through the hull of this boat. I mentioned this little gasket a minute ago. This thing can be the bane of your existence. So flat side goes against the boat, contoured side goes against the contour sides of the little grommet here. So if you need to, you can kind of lay it there, then take your cable like you're running through it, and now you have to run this thing all the way down your cable. And make sure you don't get it twisted up on there. So now I've got that run all the way down. I'm going to set this to the side. The reason I say do this now is I was going to say I don't know how many times, because I've done it quite a few times. I've put everything in here. I've run my transducer cable through the hole, got it to where I'm pulling it out over there. And I realized I forgot to run this little rubber seal in there. So I said a few choice words and then I pulled everything apart and did it again. So note to self, make sure you put your little rubber washer on first, then start running your transducer cable. Okay, on these Hobies underneath the deck, there are some foam blocks. You're gonna kind of need to get in here and either remove them or push them around a little bit just to get them out of the way. Once you pull these out, you do want to put them back in place. These are in the boat to enhance the flotation and the deck stability in these boats. It gives them a little something so these decks they're really rigidly made, but they always have a little something underneath to help give them that extra rigidity. So we've got one block pulled out. That's really about all we need. We're going to start feeding our transducer cable down through the transducer cable hole. I'm going to reach up under here. And just pull it out. I'm going to feed it and I'm going to pull it. I'm going to feed it and I'm going to pull it. I'm going to feed it and pull it until we get all the way down to here. Now, if you remember a minute ago when I talked about making sure you had this little seal in place, you can see why that's important now. I've got my seal in here. It's in the boat. Once we screw everything back down, it's going to go into place. We're going to have a nice watertight connection here. All right, now we talked about earlier the cables going through this cable management system in the through-hole system. As you can see, these little pieces just slide in and out fairly easily. So we take that solid piece out. You can see this one that's going to go through the cable through it. You can see it fits right in there like that. So we have a nice clean system through this cable to go through. So let me go ahead and get this wrapped around the cable. And when I do this, I usually pull a little extra cable up so that I got some room to work with. Cable's through there. This slides into place. Now all we have to do is put all of this back down. Oh, moved my screws on myself. So now I'm going to go to my screws. And we're going to start putting these in place. Now I'm not going to crank these down really tight yet. I want to get everything lined up first. All right, so I can tighten those down a little bit. That little bit of extra cable that I left out, can easily feed that back through. So look how clean that is. Just gonna finish screwing these down tight. And that is how we get the transducer into the hull of this Hobie PA14. As we talked about these grommets on the Hobie through-hole fittings, I've moved over to this one and dug it out of the bag. It's got two holes in it, one in the front and one in the back. One's a little bit larger than the other one. This allows the transducer cable to go through here, and then it also allows the power cable to fit through here. So instead of having to pull two of the plugs out, we can do one plug with both the power and the transducer coming through. It'll give us a nice clean install. All right, so let's move to the front of the boat where we're going to finish installing this Hook Reveal 7 triple shot. So now I'm moving to the bow of the boat. I'm going to remove the Hobie through-hole fitting up here. Now, one thing I will mention is while I am using my drill to take these off, you may have noticed when I put them back on, I did use a screwdriver to go hand tight with these. These are something you want to be very careful with, and you don't want to crank down on them or strip them out. So now that I've removed the through hole fitting, you can see we've got that nice little hole. That's where all of our cables are going to come out, so we're going to fish those through there now. Transducer cable tucked in the hole. We know where we're coming to up here, so we're going to reach through the hole. We're going to come up here. Use my needle noses to grab a hold of it. Pull a little bit of that cable out and we'll just set it there. Now when we go to put everything back together, we want to remember this little rubber washer needs to come off of here and go against the side of the kayak before we start. All right, now that we have our transducer fished through, I'm going to do the exact same thing with our power cord. So I'm going to come in here, feed it up as far as I can see it. Use my needle noses to get a hold of it and pull it out. So now that we have these pulled through, let's get our wires cleaned up underneath, and let's go ahead and get this display mounted on this boat. One thing that's really important on kayaks and other small boats is cable management. You don't have a whole lot of room, so you don't want to have a whole lot of clutter. So now that I've got my transducer basically set how I want it, I'm going to go ahead and take my cable and I am going to fold it back up nice and neat, just like it came out of the box. So with this being a 25-foot transducer cable, I just want to make it nice and neat. I've got a nice little wad of transducer cable right here. I'm going to go ahead and put this zip tie on it. Get a good hold on it. I use my needle noses. So now that I got this zip tied in here nice and neat, it's just going to lay in the corner out of the way. Okay, Aqua battery, power cable. We're going to connect these up. They have a nice little O-ring, makes a nice little tight fitting here. Push that in tight. Screw this down. So now we have power on the Aqua battery. And this, we're just going to set it in here. We chose earlier this is where we were going to put it. So now that the Aqua battery's in there, this goes back in just as easily as everything else. Just kind of push it into place. Drop that on, so now you're ready to put your tackle boxes back in here. And we have a nice clean install. So let's get the finish mounting everything else up on here. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the 7-inch gimbal mount to a ram mount system. And then we're going to use the Hobie H-track accessory rails to mount this onto the kayak. It all makes it really quick, clean, and simple to put it on here. Get these screws on here. When you put these on, I always recommend using nylon nuts on here. If you don't have any nylon nuts, I always recommend at the very least using lock washers on here to help lock these down so that it doesn't spin free. So I was out of the locking nuts, so today is lock washers. All right, I'm going to get these tightened down and then we're ready to finish putting everything together. Now that we've got our gimbal all mounted up, we're going to select our ram ball here on this H-track system. These are really cool because you can put them on here and pretty much decide wherever up and down here you want to use them. So let's say just to start, we're going to guess right about here. This is all snapped into place. flip that lock right there, it should stay. If it moves around on you a little bit, you can just loosen this up and tighten this nut. That will give you more tension right there for a positive locking on there, but I feel good with how we are. Go ahead and put our ram mount on here. And then we'll slide the unit into place. Now that we kind of have everything semi-sitting where we want it, I'm going to take the seat and put it back in this boat. There we go. Okay, now that I got the seat back in the boat, I've loosened my H-mount here. I'm just sliding it kind of up and down the track, just kind of trying to get an idea of where I'm probably going to want this on the boat. This feels like this is within a pretty good reach right here. So I will go ahead and lock my track back down. Track is locked back down. Screw this down tight on the boat. Then I'm going to put my transducer cable and my power cable, plug those in on the unit. Now that I've got these plugged together on the unit, you may have noticed we did not put this piece back on earlier. The reason I have not put this back on yet is I kind of wanted to get an idea first where I wanted this unit on the boat. So now that I know where I want this unit on the boat, I know how much cable that I need to have out. Now we're going to get ready to put the through-hole fitting back on the boat. As we talked about earlier, I have my two cables here. I'm going to pull this seal off and feed it down the cable and get it into place here. Again, we have to feed that through first, otherwise it's not going to fit in place. Now we go to the through-hole system. I pull the blank stopper out. Put my transducer cable in here. And my power cable. So now both of those cables are in here. I'm going to slide this down a little bit closer. Got a nice fit there. Now we'll put this back on. Now that we have that fit, this is where it gets a little tricky, getting everything lined up to get these cables and screws back into place. Typically, I'll put my screw on my screwdriver, go through my through-hole fitting. I'll find everything first like that, put a couple of turns in it, won't make it tight. Do the same thing with the bottom fittings. Couple turns in that. And the final fitting. Now, just a couple of turns. Make sure everything is snugged up. Perfect. So now we'll take our transducer and our power cord. These are plugged into the unit. You can see. At this point, if you want to use like some sort of cable management to keep those two cables together, or if you just want to zip tie them together to make them pretty, that's where you can do that. But everything's ready to go now. Now that everything's connected, we're gonna go ahead and power this up for the first time. Hit the power button, hear the beep, that's a good sign. So this is the first time this unit's been booted up, so it's gonna take it just a minute to boot up. Okay, ready?
Yep.
All right, as you can see, we powered it up. This is the first time it's come up, so we're gonna have to go through a couple things on this unit. We're gonna select the English language by hitting enter. It's gonna confirm that and say yes or no. I say yes. Then I'm gonna hit accept. And it's gonna ask me to configure this device. I'm gonna say okay. Miles per hour, feet. If I were somewhere else and wanted to use, say, the metric system or whatever, you can arrow down to those and select it here, but I like miles per hour and feet. And then I say finish. It's going to ask me to register this device. I'm going to tell it to remind me later. And as you can see, we're pulling up a map. You can see with my transducer plugged in, I've got a water temp, and here's our home screen. So here's all of our features available on this Hook Reveal 7 triple shot unit. We have charts, sonar, side scan, and down scan. So we can also go in here to add pages and create all kinds of custom pages of how we want to look at this while we're on the water. So if I just wanted to use sonar, I'd arrow over to sonar and hit the power button. Or not the power button, but the enter button. As you can see, it says the sonar is stopped. I hit this power button again. Arrow over here to stop sonar. I hit the enter button again. As you can see, it's going to start scrolling. Now, what's funny here is you can see, even though we're not in water, we actually have a bottom lock of 6 feet. That's because we're over a concrete floor. The transducer's facing directly down on it, so we're getting a good signal return to it. The only thing is we're not 6 feet from the floor. We're only a couple of feet, but sound travels about 4 times slower through air than it does water. So if you're out of the water and you're getting a bottom lock like you see here, but it's kind of a really weird number, that's why. So, all right, everybody, that's how you install a Hook Reveal 7 triple shot on this beautiful Hobie Kayak. So I think really, I'm ready to get this out on the water. Thanks for joining us. All right, everybody, in a nutshell, that's how easy it is to get this Hook Reveal installed on one of these beautiful Hobie PA kayaks. You know, looking at the questions that have been coming in on the chats, one of the questions that has shown up a lot is, when do we get to see this live on the water? You know what? Springtime's here, the weather's changing, it's getting nicer, the sun's staying out later. That gives me an excuse to spend more time on the water. If I get to spend more time on the water, that means I have time to bring you guys a webinar on how we use this equipment on these kayaks. So stay tuned, we'll have one of those webinars coming soon. Matthew, what kind of questions do we have coming in right now?
Yeah, we'll start with the first one. Is if my pedal drive kayak has a propeller, where do I mount my transducer?
All right, that's an excellent question. The question was, if I have a propeller-driven kayak, where do I mount my transducer? So the reason you want to do that, obviously, is to keep it out of the prop wash. Prop wash creates bubbles. Anywhere on the kayak, forward of the propeller is a good spot to do it. Certain brands of kayaks actually have transducer mounts in the front of them. I know for a fact the Big Fish 108, in the front hatch, they've got a pole that the transducer will mount to that's in front of where the propellers are. So it's in the front of the kayak, and you can also use that pole to lift the transducer up and down out of the water, a lot like you can use the Hobie plate on this PA. So a lot of good options for that. Again, another one of those features that you can use that we talked about is like from Yak Attack, where they have the transducer mount that comes over the side of the boat. So it's a pole that you would put in and out of the water on the side of the boat. That's another great option. So just so many third-party vendors give you the ability to mount transducers wherever you want them. So that's one of the easiest ways to get it out of the prop wash from a propeller-driven kayak. What other questions do we have, Matthew?
If
That's another question, and actually we hear that one a lot. The question was, if I have a hook reveal or a hook 2 that's a split shot unit, can I just add the triple shot transducer to it and get side scan? No, you cannot. So unfortunately, if you want a triple shot, or you think you may want a triple shot in the future, it's best to go ahead and buy that immediately. If you buy the split shot transducer, it does not have the sonar capabilities or the pins that allow side scan information. So with a split shot transducer unit, that's all you can do with it. Now, if you do have a triple shot unit, you can plug a split shot transducer into the triple shot unit. So that's the easiest part to remember of that. So what else do we have, Matthew?
I think this is the last one, and it's, can I epoxy my transducer inside the hole?
Okay, this is another one we hear a lot. The question was, can I epoxy a transducer inside the hull of my kayak? It's a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. If you're using just a 2D transducer, then yes, you can use like marine goop or something like that, as long as it's a non-metallic epoxy to mount that transducer into the hull of the boat. Now, if you're wanting to use a side scan, a split shot, an HDI type transducer, anything with a scanning sonar in it, so down scan, side scan, you cannot use that inside the hull of the kayak. Even though it's plastic, it's going to reduce the image and you're not going to get very good returns and you're not going to be happy with it. So that looks like it's our last question. So a couple things I want to let everybody know about. $100 rebate on hook reveal. So if you have a hook reveal that you purchased or are purchasing, you can go to Lowrance.com offers and see where you can get that $100 rebate. And finally tonight, I want to say thank you very much to Tulsa Kayak for letting us use their facility. They were gracious enough to let us come in here and use one of their kayaks to do this install video. And then they were also gracious enough when this rain started moving in on us today to say, yeah, you guys are more than welcome to come out here and shoot your webinar live here. So again, thank you to Tulsa Kayak. Remember everybody, get out there and fish. Get out there, spend some time on the water, spend time with friends and family. Get us some great pictures. Hashtag it Anglers Unite. You know, check us out on the Lowrance Facebook page. Send us those pictures there. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we have a lot of great tips and tricks that we do. We show you how to operate your units. We also do some install techniques and stuff like that there. So everybody, thank you for your time, and we hope to see you on the water.